It is 2 minutes past 7, so I think we shall get started. Good evening, everybody, and thank you for joining us. My name is Smaya. I'm from the HQ Learning team. I'd like to introduce Adam Dukes to you, who's going to give us an informative view on Sustrans and the careers and pathways into that. So over to you, Adam. Thank you.
Thank you, and good evening, everyone. Yes, so my name is Adam Dukes, and it's hopefully written on the screen. And I'm going to give you a bit of an introduction to the charity I work for, which is called Sustrans, and look at some of the we're going to look at some of the people that work for Sustrans after we've had a little look at what Sustrans does. And in doing so, we're going to kind of look at the different ways in which you might arrive at Sustrans. And we're going to look at a few of my colleagues' journeys to Sustrans in doing so, including my own. So we'll sort of bring that to life. So I'm going to be chatting for about half an hour. If any of you have got questions that you want to pose, you can use the Q&A function, but I know you've also got a chat function. So do put those in there. We'll have time at the end for you to either put those in the Q&A and I can answer those, or you can raise your hand and I can have a chat with you and we can talk through your questions and I can provide some answers. But let us continue with the presentation. So yeah, my name's Adam, and my job title is also helpfully written on there. I'm a volunteer coordinator. I'll tell you more about what that is a little bit later on. I don't know if any of you have heard of Sustrans, but I think we're going to start with our mission. In fact, before I do that, let's just look at the word Sustrans in case any of you are wondering what Sustrans actually means or stands for. We'll just clear that up from the start. Sustrans is basically the amalgamation of two words: sustainability and transport. So you take the first bit of both of those words, sustainability and transport, you put them together and you've got Sustrans. So what's Sustrans? Maybe you've heard of Sustrans, maybe you haven't. What is it we do? We're a charity. We've been around for just over 40 years. We have a mission which is written on the screen, which is that we make it easier for people to walk and cycle. That's really, really easy, really straightforward. So great. Okay, so that sounds pretty easy to understand. But we have a vision as well. I'm just going to close this little screen down so I can see that on my screen. And that's a little bit of a longer sentence. So what does that mean? Well, what's our vision? It's a society where the way we travel creates healthier places and happier lives for everyone. So what does that really mean? Well, it's kind of meaning that we think that the way we travel, you, me, everyone, influences the sort of places we live and places and our lives. You know, we can have nicer places to live if we think differently about the way we move around. What I mean by that is maybe if we're traveling around in a way that's making us unhealthy. It could be because we're traveling around in a car, therefore we're not getting any exercise, and we're traveling around a car that is also polluting the air. But we'll talk more about that as we go along. But that's kind of what it breaks down. It's all about transport. So the transport plays a big part in making us healthier and making us happier. So, okay, so we want to help more people to walk and cycle. We want to create healthier people, better places, healthier lives. How do we do that at Sustrans? Well, we want to create what we call livable cities and towns for everyone. So that's one thing we want to see. And the other thing we work on is something called the National Cycle Network, which we subtitle as Paths for Everyone. So the National Cycle Network I'll talk about in a minute, but I want to look at livable cities and towns for everyone first and just have a little bit think about what that means. What that means thinking about where you live, where I live, where we all live. So here's a nice photograph. This is a photograph of where I live. I live in Bath, and this is a scene that's not very nice. And I just want you to have a look at this photograph and just think about what's going on here. What's going on in this photograph? What are the issues you can see being played out on this screen? And I'm going to assume, I'm going to reckon that the first thing you're going to see is, okay, well, it's a massive traffic jam. Yeah, it is. You're right. It's a traffic jam. There's lots of cars. Doesn't look like anyone's going anywhere fast. So we've got an issue here, really local. You know, if I live in those houses on the left, or I'm in those shops on the right, or in the flats above them, that's not a very pleasant place to be, is it? And why is it not? Well, there's probably a lot of noise. There's definitely going to be loads of pollution. It's probably smelly, and it's not, doesn't necessarily look very safe either. If I wanted to get across that road, it's weaving in cars, yeah, it looks unpleasant. So when we think about a livable city and town, you know, think about where you live. Is that a scene you recognise? You know, how can we address this? How can we think differently about the way we move around our cities and towns? And that's what Sustrans exists to do. Because of course, outside of this picture that we can't see, we all know exists though, is a bigger issue, and that's climate change. And we know that transport plays a major part, is a major contributor to climate change. And we're in a climate crisis, we're in a climate emergency, and we have got to change the way we move around our cities and towns if we want to tackle the climate emergency. And that is what Sustrans exists to do. So this is, as I said, a photograph of where I live in Bath. Let's have a look at another one. This is taken just down the road from where I live. So what do you see in this photograph? So we want to make it easier for people to walk and cycle. Now, if I'm walking down that pavement, that's not great, is it? That's not a pleasant place to walk. Now, I'm a dad. I have a young daughter, and I take her to nursery, and I take her to nursery down this road. But I can't get past this car on the pavement with the buggy when she's in the buggy. I have to go out into the road and round that car. That's not great. So you know, thinking about you know, when I think about a livable city and town, I showed you these photographs because these are the issues that I experience where I live. So it'd be, you know, what's going on in where you live? Do you live in a city? Do you live in a town? Even in rural areas, think about the issues. How easy it is for you to walk and cycle. How healthy does that place feel? Is it a nice place? Is it a place that's, you know, lots of green space? Is the air clean? Is there lots of traffic? Are the pavements blocked? There are probably good and bad elements to the place you live. And at Sustrans, we exist to tackle some of these issues. And we've been doing that for a long time. But we know we've got to change the way we design our cities and towns. We've been designing our cities and towns for the car for a very long time. You know, we've made it easier for cars to move around our cities and towns. But unfortunately, we have got a problem with air pollution. We have a climate crisis. We have an obesity crisis. We have lots of people that would like to cycle, that perhaps could walk, but we've designed for the car, and we've designed out the pedestrian, and we've designed out the cyclist. We've made it hard for those people to walk and cycle. We've made it hard for people to want to get out of their cars. But we could do things differently. We are doing things differently. This is in London. This is in Walthamstow. This is where we have redesigned the street. And that's the sort of thing that Sustrans does. We're a doing charity. We do stuff like this. So if you want to visit these shops, you can walk and cycle to the shops. If you're a delivery driver, obviously, you can still access the shops and drop your stuff off in your van. But if you can't drive down that road in your car, but it's a pleasant place. The shopkeepers reporting better sales. It's nice. People just see behind that bicycle. There's some people sitting out in the cafe there on the pavement. It's a nicer place. It's a healthier place. We want to see more of that sort of stuff because we think we all should have the right to that. It's really important. This is outside a school in Southampton, and we close the road. We work with the school to close the road in the morning drop-off and in the afternoon pickup. And why do we do that? Well, I don't know. Think about the school run. Maybe you've been involved in the school run, been in a car maybe, or you've seen it. I certainly have. Lots of cars with one person driving potentially and children in the back, dropped off right outside the school gate. Lots of air pollution around that school, lots of congestion, not massively safe, loads of children not getting much exercise on their way to school, if any, potentially not having come a great distance in the car. Maybe they could have walked, maybe they could have cycled. But we've closed the road. What we're doing here is saying, look, let's try something out. We could do things differently. Let's experiment. And that's what we do. We want to do stuff. And we're not a campaigning charity. We don't man the barricades. There are loads of organisations who do that and they want to see better walking and cycling infrastructure, and they'll bang the drum. They'll do the campaigning. We do the doing. We'll do the influencing. So we'll have a chat with politicians to say, look, we think things should be different. We'll do this sort of stuff because we believe that we can demonstrate change, and that's what Sustrans does. Another couple of photographs here. This is something else we've done as well. You can see this is how the street can be changed. Make it look different. Think about where you live. What could be changed? Could something like this happen near where you are? A few more trees, perhaps make it a better place for people to walk and cycle. How would you redesign the place you live? And it's important because we don't do things on our own. We work with local communities to make change happen. So how could we work with you to make your street better? So it's worth thinking about. Here's some ideas, just like crazy ideas, but these are real ideas. A community fridge, a fridge in like a shed in the street. There's one around here in Frome, for example, where you can go and collect food that people have left there, surplus food. You could take away a parking space, top right hand corner. You can put in some chairs and some plants and a bike park and just make it a better place. Loads more people interacting with that space rather than just a parked car. You could put a book library or giveaway in a phone box, as you can see in the bottom left hand corner. Or you could go really wild with your imagination and create a giant water slide. And this is a photograph of a water slide in Bristol, in Park Street, near where Sustrans has an office. That's my favourite, and I'd like to see that. I live on a hill. I'd love to see a water slide on my street. So what would you like to see on your street? How could your street be different? How could it be changed? How could it be made better, healthier? It's just a question for you to think about. And just briefly, the other thing that we do is the National Cycle Network. And the National Cycle Network, as it says there, is a UK-wide network of signed paths and routes for walking, cycling, wheeling, exploring. There's thousands of miles of it, and you can travel all around the UK following blue signs with the red number patches, and enjoy some really lovely traffic-free routes. Got some lovely bits of old railway line, for example, where we built walking and cycling paths, and that's what we do as well. We do stuff, we build stuff, and we've been doing that for 40 years. And there might be a route near you, and you can go onto the Sustrans website, sustrans.org.uk, and have a look, see if you can find where your nearest bit of National Cycle Network is. Here's a photograph, a very old photograph, quite a fuzzy photograph, taken in 1979. This is a photograph that tells a story about where we started and about the change that we want to see, because as I said, we want to do stuff. We're doing charity. And this is a picture of a guy called John Grimshaw, who started the charity, and he's on a bit of old railway line between Bath and Bristol, and he's turning that old railway line with some other volunteers into a walking and cycling path. I'm showing you this photograph because it was the first thing that we did. We started, we found a bit of old railway line. No one was using it. It was just abandoned, and we turned it into a walking and cycling path, and it is now one of the busiest walking and cycling paths in the UK, and it's my commute into work. I live in Bath, work in Bristol, and I cycle along that path, and I can travel along that 15-mile stretch without encountering one car, and it's an absolute joy. That's what it's like now. Tarmac all the way. It is an absolute pleasure to ride, and we've created that path, and again, we're demonstrating what's possible. We can change the way we move around our towns and cities. We can change the way we move between towns and cities in this case. That's it on a map. So our first project was a doing project, a building project, and we've been doing that ever since. And we're still doing that. We've expanded and we do lots of other cool stuff, but essentially we build stuff. Here's a little example of sort of really overgrown patch of land in Bristol, quite an old photograph now. We built this a while ago, but you can see what went in. Again, we can build stuff, we can do things differently, we can change the way we move around our cities and towns. And this project has been fantastic because it's created a lovely route away from traffic for people to walk and cycle into the centre of Bristol from their homes. There's no need to get into a car and join the traffic jam. You give people a safe route, and people will change the way they travel. And that's really, really fundamental to tackling things like the climate crisis. So how do you move around? Do you walk and cycle? I'm going to guess maybe you're not driving yet. Maybe you are, I don't know. But driving's cool. You know, we all need to drive, but we don't need to drive all the time. And we've got options. This path gives you options to get out the car, get healthy, get fit, save money, clean up the air. So that's what we do. That's what Sustrans does. Hopefully that's kind of given you a bit of an idea of what we do. As I said, we do stuff. But I'm going to give you a bit of an idea about working at Sustrans. Now, I'm no careers expert, but I know lots of my colleagues, and they're fantastic people, passionate people. I'm going to introduce you to a few of them, not live, unfortunately, but I'm going to give you a few snapshots of sort of profiles of some of the people I work with, so you get an idea about their backgrounds, how they came to Sustrans, maybe give you some idea about, you know, a journey for you that could result in you coming to Sustrans or a similar sort of charity. So currently, we're about 650 colleagues all around the UK because we're a UK charity. We've got 3,000 volunteers, and we've got 30,000 supporters, people who give us a little bit of money and keep us going. And they are amazing people. All of these people are amazing, even if I guess I'm including myself in that. But we're basically there to make change happen, as you probably gathered from all the stuff I said before. Let's meet some of them. I'm going to just start with me because I guess I know my story the best. So my background, well, I'm a volunteer coordinator firstly. My role is to coordinate all the volunteers in the Southwest, and we've got lots of people who want to give some time to us. They might be retired and have loads of time. There might be students who want to volunteer for a few months. There might be people who are working and want to help out at the weekend. But these are all people that believe, as we believe, that we can change the way we move around. So I work with lots of these people, I support them, and I'm really passionate about the work I do, and I'm enthused, and I love working with the volunteers. My background, I'm really into geography. I came to Sustrans quite late in a long journey, but going all the way back to school, and even before, I was really into maps as a kid, just really geeky about maps, and did really well at school with regard to geography particularly. But then I kind of took a different turn, spent a lot of years working in social care. And what's social care? Well, that's kind of, I work with people who have some drug issues, people who've experienced homelessness. I worked in a care home for older people. I've done all sorts of things like that, but I really felt passionate. I kept coming back to passionate for the environment. And I went and did a degree a little bit later at the Open University. You may have heard of that. And that I think that was a really good move for me. And as well as doing my degree and thinking about my studies, I also did a hell of a lot of volunteering, because I wasn't sure, okay, well, I'm interested in geography, I'm interested in the environment, but what am I, you know, what's that going to be when I do a job? So I just volunteered. I just tried stuff out. There was loads of volunteering opportunities around, and I just got stuck in. And that was great, because not only did it give me an idea about where I wanted to go and like what job I wanted, it gave me loads of experience. So I had the degree, which looked really great, got my certificate, but I did lots of volunteering, and that really helped get me job interviews, basically. So that's my journey. So pretty round the houses, kind of knew what I was passionate about, went somewhere else and came back. I arrived at Sustrans 5 years ago, and I work at Sustrans like everyone else because we believe in that thing I was talking about, in making change. And also I'm a massive passionate cyclist. I love bikes, so obviously Sustrans is, you know, really the right place for me. So my advice is, yeah, think about that for you. What are you passionate about? What values do you have? What do you believe in? What change do you want to see? I think that guides a lot of the people that work at Sustrans, that kind of real passion for change, positive change to our environment and change to the way we move around. This is my colleague Holly. Holly does stuff that I don't really understand, but that's fine. She's senior engineer. So Holly basically gets down to the nitty gritty of the building of stuff. I work with volunteers, do all the nice sort of smiley stuff, talking to passionate people. Holly does the stuff on paper, the plans, the designs on her computer. She's designing cycle infrastructure. She's designing cycle lanes and designing different places. All those photographs I showed you of Walthamstow and the different streets. Holly will do those designs, and she'll work out all the engineering elements that need to go in. So Holly was really clear from the start about what she wanted to do. She was really into engineering, and so she went to university and she studied it. Yeah, great. And she had a passion for the environment, but she spent a lot of time after that working at different engineering consultancies, so doing all sorts of different stuff, all these sort of engineering projects. She was doing like big motorway projects and stuff like that. But she started to think, you know what, I really want to do something a bit different. That's more aligned with sustainability, more aligned with the environment. Yeah, and so she decided to get some further do some further studying. So she gained a master's in sustainable development. So she was properly focused on that side of engineering. And then she saw an engineering job at Sustrans and applied for it. And she had the degree, she had the master's, she spent a lot of years doing some engineering roles, and she joined Sustrans and has since been promoted to senior engineer. Holly's great to work with. She is really passionate, but she does all this cool stuff with plans and designs. As I said, I don't understand it, but it's fantastic. So yeah, from an engineering background, we've got those people at Sustrans, and yeah, we have a whole design engineering team that Holly is part of. So that's Holly. This is my colleague Ian. Now, Ian's done all sorts of stuff. Ian's a network development manager. So he's a sort of would work with Holly. So Ian works so if we're designing something, we want to see some cycle infrastructure. Ian will be chatting with landowners, the council, trying to help get the funding, drawing up the initial plans. Can we build this? Will this work? Before handing over to Holly for the detailed final designs. So Ian does loads of cool stuff as well, and he puts in new cycle routes. We've got an old muddy path. He'll come in and design something really amazing, and then Holly will go in and get the engineering stuff done to make sure that when the design goes in, it doesn't all just fall into the mud again. But Ian, as it says on screen, he's worked in the chemical industry for years after leaving university. He founded a music festival called Soulfest, and I actually been to this music festival. I didn't know Ian at the time. I didn't know he'd started the festival. So you imagine what it's like to start a music festival. If you guys have seen music festivals, been to music festivals, I'm sure you can appreciate loads of planning. So that's a massive amount of project management experience from Ian. He's also learned to fly. He's a qualified medical herbalist. I'm not sure I know what that is, but that's also fine. And he taught a sustainability course at an outdoor education centre in Bristol. So again, he's got that passion. He believes in sustainability, but he's come to Sustrans. He's been at Sustrans about 3 years now. He's come to Sustrans by a really roundabout the houses route. All sorts of stuff he's done. I was chatting with Ian and explaining, about this webinar. He just said, you just gotta get out there and just try stuff out. Just really, see what you're into. Variety is the spice of life. Don't feel you have to stick with one thing if it's not working, or if you're passionate about a number of things, dip your toe in the water. And Ian certainly has. And Ian's now working on all sorts of projects around the southwest to upgrade the national cycle network and to put in new like raising the road and changing the streetscape, and it's really, really great stuff that Ian's doing. And Ian's really passionate about making change as well. And he brings all of that stuff he's done, means that he's just got loads of knowledge. He's done all sorts of weird stuff. So he just brings a different perspective. So my advice is just try loads of stuff out, because you'll get loads of experience of all sorts of things in life, and you'll never know when you're going to need that again. And Ian's always coming up with all this cool, great ideas that he's got from doing all this sort of stuff. So that's Ian. And then there's my colleague Kate. Now, Kate, she's been passionate about sustainability for a while, but she studied biology at university. She tried out university in London, Imperial College, but really wasn't right for her. She was looking at the league tables, and they were quite high up. But ultimately, she transferred to Bristol because she just felt they had a better vibe, friendlier. And she joined all these different societies at university, again, just to get loads of experience, and eventually got a paid role in the Sustainability Society there at university. Did that for a couple of years, and then went off and did to train as a diving instructor, which took her to Madagascar and to Central America. She did a few courses out there. She did all sorts of things. She eventually came back to the UK and then tried her hand at all sorts of other jobs. Worked in a supermarket for a while, but worked for the council, doing some work in schools. So Kate's arrived at Sustrans fairly recently, and she's a Liverpool Cities and Towns officer. So I talked about Liverpool Cities and Towns earlier. Kate's role really is to go and sort of encourage change. She goes into schools. She's been going into schools and working with the school to think differently about how the way the streets around the school could be are designed, and how things could change. And she's encouraging the school to sort of speak to the council to say, we want to see change, and she's encouraging change. And she's running all sorts of projects to do that in Bath and in Plymouth as well. So I said to Kate, what's your bit of advice? Kate's 25, not long out of university, and she's done all that stuff since she's in university. And she just said, look, be persistent. Just stick to things. If you'll get there eventually. But and like with Ian, try stuff out. Dip your toe in the water. There's loads of options, and I found this with the volunteering. Volunteering is great because it's you give a little bit of commitment, but you can do a little bit for a while, swap and do something else. Kate's done lots of volunteering as well. But Kate also said, failure is okay. She left Imperial College, transferred because she just wasn't working for her. It's a really great university. There's a great reputation in London, Imperial College, but it just wasn't the right place for her. It wasn't the right fit for her. So she left, and that's okay. And she doesn't even see that necessarily as failure. But, sometimes things don't work out. And for all of the people, for myself, for Holly, for Ian, for Kate, things haven't always worked out for us, but, you persist. I just want to give you those 4 profiles, and just I was hoping there was going to be a photograph. Oh yes, there it is. I want to take you back to this photograph and just finish with this photograph. Let me just look at the time. Oh, bang on. Just wanted to finish with this photograph because thinking about the 4 people that I've talked about, including myself and others, when we're thinking about putting in infrastructure, there's whatever your interest, you guys on the call and you guys watching this recording, you might have a part to play, if you're at Sustrans in this, because there'll be lots of people that will be involved in this. If you like chatting and you're very good at chatting, and you're a confident person, you could chat to anyone, then we've got those people at Sustrans, those people who talk to politicians, those people who talk to the councils and say, hey, look, you need to, we need to see some change here. We need to see this path. Put your hands in your pockets. Let's have some funding for some cycling infrastructure that can influence. We've got those people. We've got people who are really nerdy at things like policies. You hear about government policies. We've got people like that, policy people who look at all the detail, look at the legal stuff, and try and change that so we can get more cycle infrastructure built. Stuff like this. We've got people who are really good at raising money and going out to find money. And finding money for projects that build cycle and walking paths. We've got people like Holly and Ian who can design stuff, who can do all the engineering stuff. We've got people that like Kate that can go out and talk to the communities around this path and say, hey, look, we think there's an opportunity here, but would you be up for, joining us and designing this with us? What would you like to see this path look like? Would you like to see benches on it? What would you like, what litter bins? Would you like, what kind of lighting would you like? We've got people like Kate who are really good at that sort of community engagement stuff. I might be coming in and working with volunteers to organise a litter pick along that path when there's a bit of litter in 5 years' time, or putting up some signs or cleaning. We've got people who are really passionate about wildlife who will do a wildlife survey and put up bird boxes. How can we encourage more wildlife? We've got people who are really into social media and communications who will be out there on the path on the day it opens, when the ribbon is cut, who'll be doing all the social media on Twitter, Instagram, and doing all that sort of stuff and spreading the word. When it comes to a project like this, there are loads of different skills, loads of different people that will be involved in making this change happen. And we've got all of those people at Sustrans. And while we all believe in the same thing, we all believe in that the values that we hold on to, that we want to see change, we want to improve the way we move around the cities and towns. We all do different stuff that gets this projects like this done. So whatever your sort of background, whatever your skill set, there's probably a home for you at Sustrans, to be honest. We're a very diverse range of people. We want to be more diverse. We want to increase the range of people that are coming to Sustrans from all sorts of backgrounds, because the more diverse we are, the more ideas and thoughts and different things that we can do. And that goes for all other charities. And I've worked for a few different charities, and they're full of passionate people. And it may be that Sustrans isn't the right fit. Maybe transport's not your particular interest, but that doesn't matter, because there are lots of charities which have a lot of different people working there with a whole range of skill sets like Sustrans. It's finding the right fit for you. And obviously extends beyond charities, whatever that might be, the organisation or the company or the general interest that might take you to work for yourself, whatever it is. But my experience of Sustrans has been that we're a diverse range of people who've all had really interesting journeys that have got us to Sustrans. But we all hold on to those values, really, and it's those values that will make that change happen, because we believe in it and we come together as a charity to make it happen. So I think that's probably all I've got to say on that, and hopefully that was of interest to you, and I'm very grateful for you listening. We do have some questions I can see, so I think
I was going to say thank you very much, Adam. That was lovely. That was a very nice presentation. I'll be honest with you, there's a few of the cyclopaths that I'm like, I know I cycle a lot around London, so I was like, oh, okay, it's very cool. So we do have a few questions.
Okay.
I think we've got two that are sort of roughly the same, and that's around becoming a volunteer. So the cadets would like to know, number one, how old they have to be to do any volunteering with you guys, and secondly, how would they actually go about becoming a volunteer?
Okay, good. Two really good questions. So generally, you can volunteer, I think, as a sort of registered volunteer if you're 16 or above. And if you are, I encourage you to do that. If you're younger but you're doing something like your Duke of Edinburgh, you can do some volunteering for Sustrans if you're under that age, obviously with your supervisor. And I've actually personally had some younger people, I think I was a 13 and a 14-year-old, come to volunteer with me in the office for a morning as part of their Duke of Edinburgh. But you can also keep an eye out, and volunteer as part of your family, potentially doing litter picks and things like that. If you are interested, I'm happy for my details to be passed on. I can take any specific inquiries, because obviously I work in the Southwest, but I'm part of a whole volunteer network of volunteer coordinators from around the UK who might have more information about opportunities close to you, where you live. So I'm very happy for my details to be passed on. But once we have volunteering opportunities coming up that we're always keen for younger people to get involved in. We're going to be auditing. So this is a smartphone-based survey. asking people to go out and audit lots of barriers on the National Cycle Network. That's a big project we've got to do this year, and we're very keen to encourage young people to help us with that, because it's a good bit of experience, to go out and do some surveying on the National Cycle Network. That's a great thing to volunteer to do. It's a great thing to be gaining some experience at. So we'll be rolling that out in the summer. So please do pass on my details, and if you are interested, get in touch and we can see what's available local to you.
And you did say something about a D&V. So we've got a couple of cadets that want to know, can they do sort of volunteering with you guys as part of sort of like the D&V volunteering fulfillment? Yes,
you can. And again, I'm happy to take details and pass those on to the local volunteer coordinator in that area, and we can look at how we can make that happen. Yeah, very keen to have D&V people on board.
So we've got another one. What's the best project you've been involved in?
Well, that's a really good one. Well, I mean, my work with volunteers means I get to travel around and look at loads of cool stuff. And I think for me that the project I'm working on, one of the projects I'm working on at the moment, I think is really cool. And it's not like an infrastructure project, but it's an auditing project. Because I've been out and done this myself. So as I said moments ago, around barriers, we're going out with a smartphone, and you get to go out on your bike or on foot with a smartphone and look for all these. We're doing an audit of these mileposts, which are 20 years old, and they're spread all around the country. We've got 1,000 of them, and we've got a new survey. We want to go out and audit them. So I get to go out and audit these barriers as a way of testing this survey works, and then we're going to send our volunteers out. But the idea of just going out and collecting all this cool data and looking at these mileposts, that's I find really, really exciting. But we've also done another project in Plymouth, which I really, really like as well, which is it's behind a sewage works, which doesn't sound very nice, but it was a really horrible path, and it was really muddy and grim. And you just got stuck in the mud, and we've put in a really massive new bridge, a lovely new path, and I've been down there with our volunteers, and we're making it all putting up bird boxes and stuff like that. And to see the change, because I knew that path before, it's like, wow, that's so amazing. And that means that people can walk and cycle into Plymouth really easily now without having to get stuck in the mud behind the sewage works. So it's like a little bit of path that you've just created. You've created a whole better path, and it changes everything, because suddenly loads of people can walk and cycle into Plymouth easily without having to get stuck in traffic. So that's a really cool project. There are so many around the UK that I could talk about, but we haven't got time for
that. And then on from that, I guess, how would sort of any of our cadets or any of our volunteers, how would they find out about some of sort of the live projects that you guys have got going on, or things that you've got coming up? Like you mentioned, sort of like the ordnance survey, like how would they where would they find info like that, or how would they find out about it?
Well, for that sort of stuff, if you're interested in getting involved in things like surveying and finding out about volunteering, then the best thing to do is to just make an inquiry, and we can put you on like a mailing list and stuff. So if you hear about opportunities to do some auditing and stuff like that, then you'll hear about that. In other areas, we might be doing things like litter picks. We might be doing school streets events and stuff like that you can help out at. All sorts of opportunities to get involved. Again, you can come marshal outside of school doing a school streets event, and that's another great thing to get some experience at. I think it's about being on local mailing lists. And again, it's about, you can check our volunteering page on the website for any roles that are available, but for short-term roles and things that might be coming up, it's probably best to be in touch with our local volunteer coordinators. So that's like me for the Southwest and other people around the UK, so we can keep you up to date with things that are coming up and things you can get involved in.
So just a few personal ones now, if anything.
Oh dear.
What's your favourite way to travel? I think you touched on it already.
Yeah. So, well, yeah, I'm a really keen cyclist, but I wasn't always a keen cyclist. I learned to ride a bike as a kid. This is quite a common story, actually. I think you learn to ride a bike as a kid, and then as a teenager, I sort of stopped cycling. And then I didn't really get on a bike again until I was in my 20s, and I lived in London, and I didn't want to cycle in London because I thought it was really dangerous. Why would anyone cycle in London? And then my girlfriend bought me a bike for Christmas. I thought, oh man, I'm going to have to get on this bike because she's bought it for me for Christmas. It's a lovely thing. So I got on the bike reluctantly, but now I love it, and I travel to work on my bike all the time. I go on big bike rides. I've cycled from London to Paris. I've cycled from Land's End to John Groat. It's just the best way to travel because you can go a long distance, but you're still kind of in touch with the landscape. You know, you can still hear the birds and you can feel the air and stuff. You're not trapped in a metal box. You're exercising. Yeah, I love it. And yeah, I encourage you all, if you if you're not cyclists, to get on a bike, and just, it's the best thing. And with more paths and infrastructure like the ones that we've been putting in, it's then easier and safer for us all to do that, and that's what we want to see. Sorry, I'm I'm doing the patter again.
And what would our cadets need to study if they were sort of to get a job in sort of a job like yours, or a job in sustainability? Like, what would be the best sort of route for them to take?
Well, I mean, my personal journey has been through the sort of predictable route of doing geography. I didn't do any A levels, I have to say. I did geography GCSE and came back to my degree later. But you know, everyone's journey is different. But certainly that's geography, and then thinking about environmental studies potentially, or sustainability. But as you've seen from some of the profiles, you know, depending on what you're interested in, people have done all sorts of stuff. You know, Kate has done biology. You know, my colleague Ian studied chemical engineering, I think, and then Holly did engineering. But I think, you know, for a lot of the jobs at Sustrans, you know, particularly those sort of jobs like mine, looking for sort of general environment, sustainability, that sort of stuff, to give you that all-round knowledge and experience. But I can't underplay the sort of the volunteering element as well, and getting that experience as well, alongside the academic route. It's really important, I think, to get that on the ground experience, because if you're working with people, you're doing community engagement. I did loads of work with people, as I said, who had drug issues, and people with homelessness, and that helped me to become a really good communicator, because these people were very vulnerable in a very difficult situation, and you had to communicate with them very carefully, gently, openly. And I learned to communicate really well through doing that, and that's not something I did in my degree. So, you know, it's really complemented my degree. So I can't, I must stress again, the need to do that. But I would think, depending on where your passion is, environment, sustainability, that's been my route. It's been a route that served me well.
And then I've got two other questions. One quite a simple one, which I don't think has got a very simple answer. But why did you choose sustainability? Why did you sort of choose that sort of path to go into, sort of help people or help the environment?
Good question. Well, as I said, I was always interested in sort of geography as a kid, and like maps and stuff like that. And that sort of expanded then, and you know, hearing more about climate change and things like that. And I kind of realized after a while that I was really passionate about it. I went to some protests as a kid, and as a young person, in London, and climate change protests and stuff. And I just saw the energy there and the passion. And I thought, hearing more of the news about the climate crisis and stuff, I thought, okay, well, rather than just come to protest, which is fine and an important thing we all need to do in democracies, I thought, okay, well, if I really want to devote my life to this, and it's my passion, I need to learn about this. I need to properly understand. And it was a game changer, really. It's really simple concepts that I was learning, which was stuff like, everything around us comes from somewhere, has to be created from just the earth that was once just a ball of sea and trees and wildlife, and we created all this stuff. That's amazing, but it's also, there's some impacts there. So just at a really simple level, it was just open my eyes to stuff. So hopefully that's a decent enough answer to that question.
And then we just got one final one, which has, I think, which finishes off brilliantly, which is, where has seen the most progress to getting people into cycling or walking, rather than sort of being stuck in a traffic jam?
Where?
Yes, where, yeah.
Yeah, I think there are a couple of places that are often cited. That's the Netherlands, and also Denmark. And you know, if you go to the Netherlands, what you won't see is lots of people that often look like me, like i.e. when I'm on my bike dressed in lycra with my helmet on my road bike. You won't see those people. You'll just see people on, you know, in normal clothes, sitting on a sit-up bike, maybe with a big trailer in the back with the kids on their way to school. You know, these people don't look like cyclists. They're just normal people, that just happen to be on a bike. And that's because, you know, 50 years ago, back in the 60s, you know, the Netherlands just, yeah, it was hard then to change, but they did it. They invested a huge amount in infrastructure. At the same time that we were creating bypasses, motorways, you know, we were designing for the car, they were designing for people. And that's meant that they're a country now which just, you know, which other countries like the UK look on to think, you know, this is where we should be going, and this is what we're trying to do belatedly and at great cost, because we've got to undo all of that work we did to design for the car. But my recommendation would be go to Holland, go to Denmark, look at all the people cycling. There are places in the UK where you can see some of that. I mean, London increasingly looks brilliant. The change in London now with the infrastructure. If you go to London, places like Cambridge as well, Oxford increasingly as well, these university towns. But yeah, if you want to see what real change looks like, check out the Netherlands. But eventually, that'll come here. We're working on it.
I hope so. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it. We're about 10 to 8, so it's been amazing. Thank you very much, and thank you everyone for attending. We all hope you have a lovely evening. Thank you.
Yes, thanks everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.